And we are back, and we just finished watching A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night from 2014. It's not rated, but if I had to wager a guess, I guess PG-13.
Yeah.
And this movie clocks in at 1 hour and 41 minutes. This is, according to IMDb, the Iranian ghost town Bad City, a place that reeks... Oh, sorry. In the Iranian ghost town Bad City, a place that reeks of death and loneliness. The townspeople are unaware they are being stalked by a lonesome vampire.
I guess that's a good synopsis. Better than the one that was on Tubi,
which is where we saw it.
Skateboarding vampire girl and Max Revenge. And
on men who disrespect women, which
is not really...
which would have been a really good story had that been the story of this film.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really it.
Yeah.
This is written and directed by Ana Lily Amirpour and stars Sheila Vand as simply the girl who is the vampire. I didn't hate this, but I didn't love it. I wanted to like this more. I'd heard about it, and it's a pretty looking film.
Yeah, I heard so much about this film. Maybe it just got hyped up a bit too much, but
possibly.
It's just this felt like a student film to me.
A very slick student film.
Very well filmed student film. I mean, I appreciated the black and white. It definitely added to the mood.
Yes, yes. I was going to say that amped it up for me as well.
For a film that had this film didn't have any budget. They did the most that they could with the budget, as far as like I said, the mood, the way it was shot.
Maybe the music rights.
The music rights.
There was a ton of music in this.
The songs were catchy. Not that it was a musical or anything. The music was used in proper places.
Maybe the rental of that car, because that was a sweet,
the car
ride.
was a lovely automobile.
Yeah,
a very well-trained cat.
Yes, yes, I mentioned that.
But as far as like visual effects or anything, there really wasn't anything going on. I mean, people were simulating drug use that. They never show needles going into arms or anything. When she attacks, probably maybe special effects were like when you see her fangs pop out. There was like maybe 2 scenes where that occurred.
Maybe 3.
2 or 3. Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't. That was about it as far as. And some guy gets his finger bitten off.
Yes.
But that you could just buy that in a novelty store.
Yes. I'm gonna just jump into what could have made this better. You go first.
I don't know. It was just, I really don't know. I mean, I felt like there were parts that were a bit confusing and went against the grain. Mainly one part, really. She kills a random homeless guy.
Yeah, I hated that scene.
And it's sort of like,
why?
Like why? Because the other 2 aspects of or events or killings, she's killing somebody that kind of deserves it. They are mistreating a woman, or it almost felt more like don't do drugs or vampire lady will kill you. Because that's really, and if that was what it was supposed to be, then once again the random homeless guy killing, maybe he used drugs, but he wasn't hurting anybody.
Yeah, he was just in an alley.
He was just in an alley having a miserable life.
Although we don't know, right? I mean, we don't know.
I mean, maybe he was. There were other characters in the movie that sort of like were there just to be there. There was that
little boy.
There was a little boy.
I hated the scene with the little boy and her.
I understand you hated that scene, but I could see a purpose to that scene.
Fair enough.
It's her basically saying, don't become
one of these guys.
One of these other guys. Yeah. Don't become like the slicked out drug dealer guy. Don't become the whatever the deal was with what was his name? Amar?
No, Arash.
Don't be like Arash's dad. Although Arash's dad was also kind of a mess, a sad sack, and
addict.
Yeah, that whole like his end was also very strange. The guy that really deserved it was the drug dealer, and he got his. He gets his.
Yeah.
I didn't really quite get the homeless guy. I could see Arash's dad kind of earns his death. That almost just felt like an excuse to have a bit of a, oh my God, what's going to happen at the end? It's like, oh, look, you recognize the cat?
Yeah.
That homeless killing just felt out of, and like I said, there were other characters that they could have possibly used to say, okay, so the homeless guy was a bad dude. Maybe he's like attacking them, like the trans character,
right,
who doesn't really have any lines or anything, but you see them in the
right.
background in various scenes. I think they were at the party scene.
Yeah.
And then you think that character is going to have a bit more going on because there's a whole little sequence of them dancing with a balloon.
Yeah,
and
which is bizarre too.
But nothing comes of that. And to me, that just like...
And is the trans character next to the little boy when they see Arash's dad? Like, I didn't know if that person to the left of the little boy was that character.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
they were
feel
sort
like...
of... It was like they were building this... You almost felt like, okay, we're building this random group of people in this town, but then we don't really utilize most of them. Like even the rich girl, she gets utilized in one scene and then gone.
Gone. Yeah. There was no point to her.
Like, it was almost like, oh, she's got a nose job. Is something relevant to that? She gets him to take ecstasy. And
that was an interesting. That was a weird scene to me because it seemed like they might hook up, but they don't.
No, she's like, what do you do? Like, I guess she had another boy, but there was a lot of like drop threads in this movie.
Yes, I think that.
And to me, that's why I said it. It felt like a student film. It felt like, okay, we have this basic idea for a plot. We need to. We have some interesting ideas. We're kind of going to forget about them to keep going this way. Oh, we need to fill up some time. Okay, how about you dance with a balloon? There was like a lot of weak bits in it. It definitely felt like an excellent. Was this our first movie?
Possibly.
It felt like an excellent showcase of somebody who has talent and will go far with some seasoning. But to get the amount of accolades that this got, I don't know. Like I was expecting.
It's not actually. It's not. Well, let's see. She did a lot of shorts. This is her first feature film. Yes.
Okay, well, there's a big difference between shorts and features.
Right.
Features, you got to fill up a certain amount of time.
She did a short in 2011 called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. So I guess this is the extended version of that. Yeah. And before this film, she had done about 8 shorts.
You know what? That kind of makes sense because with a short, one, you don't really have to go into too much depth with the characters. Right. And you also don't have to fill up time that you would with a major picture, especially if you're developing the short into a major movie. And usually when that happens, it's never really that great. It's always like middling at best. I don't. Was there ever a short film that you've seen that like they expanded into a full feature length thing that where you were just like, wow, Pixels?
That was fun.
It was fun, but it was just like...
I feel like that is a thing, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure once we're done... I'm sure once we're done with this review, I'll figure it out. But so my notes would have been... Well, I think I said this to you when we were watching it. Lean heavier into the horror.
Yeah.
Lean way heavier into the horror. You have this beautiful black and white palette that you can... That's just... visually stunning. Some of the shots were really nicely framed and really nicely done, and she certainly had an aesthetic. The story was weak. I feel like the girl shouldn't have fallen in love with Arash because I'm assuming that's what happened because she then picks up and leaves at the end.
That's another thing.
Because it was like I didn't understand how those two could fall in love. Right? I mean, the first time she sees him, she had just killed that guy. And then the second time, the drug dealer.
Oh, right. Yes.
So, and then the second time she sees him, he is high as a kite. And they share a moment in her room. It was interesting that she invited him into her space, but I didn't feel like any kind of chemistry between them. Not really. So I didn't get it either. Although by the time she meets him at the power plant, she's obviously all in because he's like, I got you this thing. I have this thing for you, but you can't use them because you don't have pierced ears. And she's just like, all right, pierce my ears.
And then she just leaves.
Right. So they had like the most strangest of relationships. If anything, I would have appreciated a relationship between her and Addie instead. Because I felt like there was more of a connection there. She's like, I've watched you and I know that you're sad. And I know that you don't even know why you do this anymore. Like, to me...
Yeah, she actually spoke to Addie.
Right.
I don't think
she had more conversation with Addie than she did with Arash. So it made sense for her to... See, if they... and see, I think that would have made it more interesting because Iranian, conservative, the culture, gay stories probably aren't. I mean, I'm sure they're a thing, but I think in this case, you could have really done something there and highlighted something there. And I really liked the relationship between the two because it was like Addie wasn't afraid of her. There was something very creepy about the girl.
Yeah, she never said anything. She just would stare at you.
Right. And even that scene, I was very... I guess it was well done, the scene with her and the little boy. Like, I found it unsettling, and it bothered me that she targeted him. But I completely see your point and agree that's probably why she did it. But then it's like, I'm watching you, but then at the end, I'm just going to leave with Arash because Arash has asked me to leave. He can't stay here anymore. And because I guess I love him, I'm now going to... I'm like... You're a vampire. You probably have a really interesting lifestyle.
I got to be honest. I don't think she loved him.
So then why did she leave with him?
Why did she do anything? Seriously, what really was her motive in doing anything?
I think originally, like when she kills the first guy, it's because that guy's a scumbag. And
you know, you'd think that. You'd think, okay, so she's gonna just kill bad guys, but then she just kills some random homeless
guy, right? Yeah.
And it's just like, no, she just needs to feed. It's fortunate that he's a scumbag.
Right. But then why is she leaving with Arash? Why does she allow him to pierce her ears? Why is there like this tension in those moments when they're together?
Because he's the only one she dreams of.
That's another thing. She dreams of him. So she has, according to this story, she has a connection with him, but it just wasn't well done. At least to me. At least to me.
No, I understand it. Like, I didn't get it. To me.
And there wasn't anything, like, other than that car, like, was there anything about Arash that was interesting?
He was a nice guy.
I guess, but... like, I don't know. He wasn't, there was nothing about him. I mean, he could have just been one of, you know what I mean? There was nothing dynamic about him. There was nothing that made me want to root for him. I mean, I felt bad for him for his situation with his father, right? Yeah. But at the same time, it was like, I don't know. I wasn't really rooting for him. Like, it's funny because Addie doesn't have a lot of screen time, but I really liked her character. And I really liked the girl. In some ways, there were things about her I didn't like, but there was things about her that I did like. And I feel like the stronger story would have been to link those two characters together and then have them have a moment where, like, maybe she goes on a murdering spree because Addie's a prostitute and kills all these people who have used her and abused her. And then Addie's like, okay, well, you're the only one who's shown me any kind of loving kindness. Let's get the fuck out of Dodge. And if you end the story that way, that, I think, would have made a bigger impact as far as I was concerned. But here, I mean, I liked Arash, but not enough to really care. I mean, towards the end of this, I kept stopping it to see how much more time was left. So you know you've lost me now, right? Yeah. And it just, I mean, visually, I loved it. I think that's the thing that's going to make me give this thing a little bit more. But story-wise, it was very lacking. It was very lacking. And it's unfortunate because I think the kernel of the story here was interesting. And you're doing it. I think the kernel of the story could have been interesting if it had been
the kernel of the story. There was nothing unique, or they didn't really take that for an interesting spin at all.
No,
it was.
But okay. It could have been. It could have been a more interesting story. You're coming from.
Possibly. You're coming from this interesting
background,
culture and background that you're not familiar with,
right?
Or American audiences are not familiar with.
And you're melding it with the vampire lore, which is also interesting in its own ways.
It's almost, to me, it's almost like they just ejected that whole aspect of it as far as the culture goes. Because, I mean, seriously, they were very Americanized.
Yes.
All the music was American.
He looked like a 50s greaser.
Everything was very Americanized. As far as
a lot of the music also was...
A lot of the music.
English. I mean, there was definitely more music of that area, but there was also a mix, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
English songs.
If it wasn't for the language and... the fact that she was wearing a hijab.
Is that what it's called?
The headdress.
Well, she had the whole thing. Although it was open and you could see her shirt and her jeans.
Long. Yeah. But minus those two aspects.
This could have been anywhere.
An Arabic, a license plate written in Arabic. This could have been anywhere.
Yeah, it could have been California.
It could have been California. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
If you were going to give this a number between 1 and 10.
Well, I don't want to say it's bad, but I don't want to say it's good, so I'll just give it a 5.
I was going to give it a 6.
I'll just give it a 5. I mean, it did have it was filmed nicely.
Yes, and I think that's the thing that gives it more points in my book.
I need more than that to say this is good.
Right.
To me, the story is not really the story's not terrible. It's just bland.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't even put any salt on it. It's just no spice, no salt.
Nothing.
It's just there.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think that if they had changed it around where the girl is sort of in love with Addie, right? She's watching her. She keeps vigilant. She keeps her safe in a lot of ways. That would have made more of an impact. And then just show more men being disgusting kind of thing and having them get their comeuppance. I think you do away with the whole thing with the little boy. I think it wouldn't have mattered. I think Arash shouldn't have been a character in this. Or either turn him into like some young goon who gets his at the end or whatever.
You know what? Instead of seeing this, just go see We'll Let the Right One In.
That is an amazing film.
Which is, I would probably say this was probably influenced by that movie or that story. Mm-hmm. Because it's the core of those two movies. They're the same. It's just Let the Right One In is
handled way better.
So much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
I agree. I mean, this is tagged as drama, romance, horror, thriller. I guess there's a case to be made for all that.
I would get rid of thriller, and I would say mild horror.
And according to IMDb, this was filmed in Bakersfield, California.
Oh, really?
Yep. How funny. It felt like California for some bizarre reason. I don't know why. I guess as soon as I saw the skateboard, I don't know.
I wonder why they made it set in Iran if everything looked American. I was just thinking, oh, I'm being a typical American where I just think everything looks like it's American regardless of what country it's in. But no, I was right. It was only California.
So I agree with you. I think that Let the Right One In does this way better and came out earlier. It came out in 2008. You can check that.
Plus, it was a book before that too.
Right. You can check that out on Hulu and Showtime, and also for buy and rent on Amazon. I think
either the Swedish was Danish or Swedish or the American version. You know.
We'll see the Danish one.
Danish one's really good. I'd never seen the American version, but I heard it was very good too.
I would still see the original because that was really good. It's Swedish actually. Sweden. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about this movie.
I heard a lot about this movie.
And kind of looking forward to seeing it. And like I said, I felt like I was back in college watching a student film.
Yeah. A very nice looking student film.
Nice looking student film, but definitely fell into those student film pitfalls.
Yeah, it was all over the place. It wasn't really
streamlined for no reason.
Wasn't streamlined.
I'm sure that metaphor meant a lot to somebody, or they were just trying to fill some time.
I mean, I think there's a lot of shots in this. At one point, I turned to you and I was like, I could see this working as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the shots were like
close-ups, and also the fact that it was this stark black and white. Mm-hmm. And big, like the main actress, very big eyes. Mm-hmm. Everybody had eyeliner on.
Even the boys, yeah.
So yeah, you could definitely see the how this would have looked like as a graphic novel.
Yeah, I think it would have looked great, and maybe might have even translated better because you don't really need.
I don't think so. I just think it was the story. The story was
weak.
It was a concept. And it wasn't really fleshed out, and somebody didn't look through it and be like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense in the overall scheme of things. Mm-hmm. This sort of takes away. Also, the main vampire character, she barely says anything. The one time she has a conversation, it's not with the love interest, really. The love interest is kind of dull.
Yeah.
There's not really anything dynamic about him. He was trying, like, even when he like stole the earrings, was it to get his dad out of debt, or was it just to get his car back?
I think it was either. I mean, he went with those earrings with the intention of giving them to the guy to kind of get his car back.
Get his car back, not really pay off his dad's debt. I mean, his dad still owed money even after the guy took the freaking car.
Yeah. Again, you talk about vampires. These are beings that have existed for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, there wasn't really any explanation or hint at, you know, how she ended up there.
Where she came from.
Where she came from. You know, she just lived in a basement apartment.
And it seemed like the
like, what did she do to live in the basement apartment? Was it a burnt out building or something? I
don't think so, but it felt like
electricity.
Her room was like the room of a teenage girl.
Yeah, a lot of posters of Madonna-esque singers.
It wasn't even Madonna, I think.
No,
I mean, it was
that's like Madonna-esque.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was just funny because it was like, for a being that lives hundreds of years, you would have amassed stuff. And I mean, she had towards the end when she's leaving that
she
table,
left. She just took everything in a small bag.
Well, not everything, just a few things, right? Like the room
is
basically
that's what I mean.
the same.
Everything she wanted to take was in a tiny bag.
Right, but she had that table with like all this jewelry that I guess she's pilfered through the years or through her whatever feedings. But again,
most of it came from that one
guy. Yeah. Well, did it? I mean, there was a lot more on that table.
There was more, but I would say a fourth of it came from that one guy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was just, I don't know. It's weird when something gets so much play or gassed, right? Like Drive My Car. I hate to keep using that as an example, but something gets so much, and then you watch it, and it's like, what am I missing? Like, am I not watching the same film that everybody else watched? Because I don't understand.
I feel like when you're... Yeah, she did short films, but this still is like her first real feature presentation. And it was filmed nicely. Mm-hmm. And she did a lot for... I'm going to wager this film did not have a colossal budget.
No.
So that deserves some accolades. And you get that with other... I mean, look at Robert Rodriguez with El Mariachi. El Mariachi's garbage, but people
made so much.
People loved it because allegedly he made it for like $6,000. Mm-hmm. Clerks, also not really a good movie.
The budget was $4 million. The U.S. and Canadian gross is a little over $2 million, and the worldwide gross was $11 million. So I guess it was successful.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't advertised. Didn't really have any big stars.
No,
I doubt anybody's collecting residuals off this thing, aside from the director or the producers.
Yeah,
honestly, I think the biggest star in the film was the dad, because I've actually seen him in other things.
Yeah, I really wanted to like this more. Yeah, I really wanted to like this more. I wish she had chosen one, and I wish she had chosen Addie to be the love interest. I wish she had leaned more heavily into the gore. I mean, there's a million other movies that you could have used as a template.
That costs money.
Yeah,
it cost $4 million to make that movie, and I'm just like, really?
Yeah.
Like $4 million when we were young was like, oh my god, this movie is
gonna break the bank.
Grossly over budget.
Right.
You know? Like, how much did Jaws cost?
Let's see. Well, you have more actors, more named actors in that too.
Yeah, so. But I mean, how much did
1975 Jaws? $7 million.
Yes, $7 million for Jaws.
And the worldwide gross on that sucker, $471 million.
Yeah.
Wow. And it made $260 in the U.S. and Canada. And the opening weekend alone was $7 million in June 22nd, 1975.
Yeah, and Jaws had like a giant robot shark. and actors you've heard of and whatnot. And,
the mayor and Quint.
And they're filming on boats and land and
but I feel like
casts of thousands.
But I feel like she could have... You didn't have to see gore, right? Like
no, that's what I mean. She did a good job as far as that goes, but like to get even today, like gory films, you know, you gotta like have some guy who knows how to do that stuff, you know, special effects and makeup and whatnot. And I'm sure she used the budget elsewhere. Like I said, it was very well shot.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a pretty movie for sure.
The staging of the shots,
the lighting,
all that stuff. Kroll could have
taken a note here.
Everything was very well staged, even like this smaller intimate scenes. streets at night, the way the lights cast shadows on everybody's face. Working with that simplicity. I mean, even though she's not the actress who plays the vampire is in no way, shape, or form a physically intimidating presence, just wearing that hijab that was so long and she looked almost like a snake.
Yeah, yeah.
There
was something terrifying about her, and even in the beginning in that scene where she leaves and she's got blood on her shirt and she's got blood on her chin. Like, lean into that. Like, it didn't have to be like gory, like something like Hostel or something like that. I mean, the movie that I always think about that is scary and you don't really see a lot is like A Quiet Place. You create this atmosphere, right? And this is where she could have benefited maybe from like a second and third draft, or maybe even help and just research, because there's so many movies that you could have taken from or just use as an example or as a guide to get your story to a better place. Like, I think,
yeah, but that's the story. I don't think she needed to go any gorier or whatever. The problem with the film is the story.
Right.
She had a cool short film story, and in a short film, like I said, you don't need to
expand.
You don't need to really expand. You could end it abruptly. You're really just there for a bit of entertainment. It's like a snack-sized bit of entertainment. You're not really expecting anything to like linger with you. Whereas with a full-length film, you want people to think about it. You want people to be entertained. You don't want people to be ever bored or questioning what the hell was the point of this. And that seems to be the problem when you take a short thing like that and you drag it out. Like, if you really had a concept for a full-length movie, and you had to sell it first as a short, I could see that working. But this felt like a short that was just elongated. You know, It's like those terrible Saturday Night Live sketch movies.
Oh my God, they're all terrible.
Where it's like,
mostly.
Oh wow, everybody loves Pat. They're gonna love a Pat movie.
Yeah, no,
we won't. Hans and Franz is great in like 5 minutes, but you make me sit there for a half an hour of stupid accents and flexing, and
we like Dana Carvey, but unless it's good, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we should wrap this up. So 5, 6, skip it, go see Let the Right One In. And that's it from us, and we will bid you all a good night.